I need this shot, I'm going to play this video. You know, everything was there. It was almost intuitive. And in fact, it was intuitive. And it was just so easy. The learning curve as far as using the software was a matter of minutes. A matter of minutes. I was able to pretty much get together in my head how I wanted the show to look.
Wow. Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
that would have been like VidBlaster 1.22 or something way back when in the dark ages
Something
of
like that.
VidBlaster.
Yeah. Yep, something like that. I mean, it was, you know, early. I mean, for me, it was a huge jump because on the one side, I would have had to go out and spend money. First of all, we didn't have. We were trying to print a magazine, and we were by the skin of our teeth to begin with. So the thought of trying to go out and buy a $20,000 switcher or, you know, mega $1,000 cameras and all of the other associated gear to do it the conventional way, it wasn't even an option, you know. And here was this low cost, immediate, hands-on, professional alternative, and it just clicked, and it made perfect sense for us. And I think it makes perfect sense for anybody who's trying to do anything like what you and I do, which is present something to the public in a way that they understand. I mean, they've seen this kind of programming before. You just have to watch TV. VidBlaster allows you to do that.
Right.
You know, get out into the public.
Right. All right. Oh, great story. Great story.
Oh,
I like that.
it's been fun. It's been fun.
Now, the show that you're doing today, you're not doing it under the name The Car Room anymore. It's
No.
Diecast X TV.
Right, it's Diecast X, yeah, out of Air Age Media up in Wilton, Connecticut, who, when the Car Room folded, took me on as an associate editor of sorts under the editor-in-chief, Andy Goodman. Andy is no longer with the magazine. I've taken over as the editor-in-chief. And what we're doing now is, as much as we can, in any way that we can, to reach out to the hobby. Because we realize that print is a great medium, and collectors, especially guys who are used to picking a model up in their hands, you know, tangible, palpable things. There's always going to be room for a print magazine you can carry around the house with you, read on your lunch break, or like you said, sit on the porch, you know, and read a magazine. There's always going to be room for that. But when it comes down to something as visual as collecting and as visual as automobiles, you need to get out beyond print. And tools like VidBlaster and certainly the internet have allowed us to do that. So that's where Diecast X is at right now. And as are a lot of the other titles that this publisher does with Radio Control. So they're a pretty savvy publisher. And I think there's going to be a great future with them reaching out to the internet and certainly using tools like VidBlaster to get there.
Gotcha. Now, your show is a monthly show, a weekly show?
It's bi-weekly. It's every other
Okay.
Sunday morning. We had tried Tuesday nights, and most of the guys my age, and I'm sure you can relate, you know, it's during the work week. Tuesday night's kind of tough. You know, I have a 10-year-old daughter, you know, put her to bed. It was just kind of a chunk out of my week I couldn't spare, and I imagine the viewers were the same. So now we do it every other Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and the audience is growing much more rapidly. A lot more people are participating. And it's also just, I think, just a better time all the way around. What we're looking to do, Tom, is to get back to a weekly platform. That's the ultimate goal, is to make it a regular weekly show.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Now, I've been snooping around behind your back, I got to admit. And I went to your live stream page, and lo and behold, the show was streaming. Are you guys streaming 24/7?
No,
shows?
live stream is kind of neat. When you go there, it auto records the stream that you're sending. It goes into a buffer. And what happens is that as soon as you break off the stream, within a matter of minutes, that recording is available on their servers. So you can put it into an on-demand queue where people will just click on an icon and the show will play for them. Or you can set it on what they call autopilot.
Ah, okay.
The show is running 24/7. And that's kind of neat because what live stream, the bread and butter with live stream, working with a platform like that, is your viewer minutes. How many minutes is every person spending watching your show? And what you can do, because it's running 24/7, every time somebody clicks in, and it's completely unobtrusive, they don't have to join the chat if they don't want to, especially if there's nobody there, you know, in between the live broadcasts. While they're on there, you get to see how many minutes they watch the show, and it becomes a total. And we're up, I mean, on the Car Room channel, we were up over 1 million viewer minutes pretty quickly.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, because it's a huge hobby, and that's the part that kind of puts the fire in my belly and everybody at Diecast X is that there are 15 million model car collectors in the United States, and that ranges from the Hot Wheels cars all the way up to the guys who commission fine scale artists to build one of a kind model cars to replicate either a collector car they own or a car that they wish they owned. So it's a broad base of people. And programming like Diecast X TV brings those models out and shows them to people who either celebrate the hobby every day of their lives or have no idea that it even exists and are seeing it for the first time.
I'm stunned. I didn't have a clue it was that big.
It's a huge hobby. It's a huge hobby. The readership of the magazine, the demographic is people starting at the age of about 18 to 20 years old who also they're into radio control. They might be into slot cars. They might be into computer gaming, which of course is a huge market segment. But it goes up to guys in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. It tapers off on that end because these are guys who, obviously they've got a huge collection by that point. They may not have the room, they may not have the resources to be an active participant like they once were. But the middle guy, the guy in the middle from 30 to 60 years old, they're out there like crazy buying these model cars. They want to know all about the information. They want to know what's on the market. And yeah, Frank Kelly is chiming in. One of my good friends who goes to a lot of these Hot Wheels conventions that I also attend. There's also a segment of the hobby that customizes existing model cars. What they'll do is they'll buy a Hot Wheels, they'll take it home, they'll strip it down, repaint it, put new wheels on it. Now you're talking about a model that big, and they will give custom paint, wire the engines, custom wheels, and they'll enter them in contests and win. And it's just an amazing group of people. Amazing group of people.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Now, doing a show like this with things that are this big has got to present some interesting technological challenges.
It does. It does. We work with webcams. I'm on one of them right now. It's just a Logitech 9000 webcam, which has a really great autofocus. But what we found out is that when you take a model, in fact, I'm going to give you an example right now. This is a Hot Wheels Elite 1966 Batmobile. Now watch what's going to happen. It's going to lock in. Hopefully, there we go. We kind of have a focus going on. But if you get too close, it just blurs out and you can't see that there's a real metal mesh in the grill in the front. So what we did is we did an internet search for microscope cameras. Now, these are the kind of cameras that are used in the medical profession to look inside ears, to examine patients dentally. So it was kind of a nasty thing to look into, but there was one manufacturer that made this little unit. And this little pencil-shaped camera is a microscope. It's an actual microscope. It focuses with this little barrel in the back here, and in the front is an actual lens with a light. If I press this button, it'll illuminate. And that allowed us to get into dashboards, into engine compartments, underneath model cars, and just show the detail of these things, some of which is mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing in a way that we had never done before. Before that, we used to use one of those big magnifying work lights with the neon circle in it, the fluorescent circle. It wasn't cutting it. There was a lot of reflections. It was really clunky and hard to work with. This is plug and play, and I got it for $15 out of Hong Kong on eBay.
Oh, right. Now that's my kind of deal right there. $15 for a microscope camera?
Yeah, the guy who was selling it,
Holy
and when I
cow.
tell you, this thing came in a sponge rubber case with a magnetic lid. It came with a couple of attachments that I can't imagine what these attachments would be used for. I never took them out of the box. But this thing just raw power, plugs it in, USB, the drivers loaded themselves, and I was able to get into models in a way that I had never been able to do so before. And that really made the viewers happy because they were getting to see some really cool stuff.
Now,
Really.
what's the resolution on this camera?
It's not great. I mean, I've had it go into the high 600s.
Wow.
What I'm throttled by, and it's one of the big frustrations that I'm working to fix right now, isn't so much the camera gear, is it's the CPU power that I've got at my fingertips when I'm
Sure.
working with the computer I currently have. I
Sure.
believe that when I do get a new computer, which is in the works over the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to really maximize this thing, maybe install some updated drivers and get the resolution up a bit. The bottom line is, though, for right now, for the type of detail it offers, for the opportunity it offers to get inside a model car, it's not really so much a question of resolution as where this camera can take us. So even if it's at, 3 to 500 DPI, you're still seeing the gauges on the dashboard. You're still seeing the wiring on an engine. I mean, you're reading where it says Ferrari on the trunk of a car. It's really, really neat. It's a lot of fun to work with.
Well, folks, we weren't able to get the connection right when we did our pre-show so that Joe could show you what it looks like through this microscope. So instead, we did a little video, and let me go ahead and get this streaming, Joe, and you can tell us what it is we're looking at.
Okay, sure. Okay, that is a Ferrari made by a company called CMC. We're just looking at the actual wheel, the spin-off, the knockoff. Now we're going into the dashboard. I'm focusing on the fly with this. Usually, this thing's on a. This is a 1/18 scale dashboard for a Ferrari California Spider. That's a leather dashboard, a wooden steering wheel, and all of these photo etch details. So you're seeing that's actual grain leather that they laid on top of the dash. The steering wheel is wood, and you can read the gauges on the car. These are the little switch knobs, all the switch gear. Panning back, there's leather seats, there's leather door panels on it. I mean, it's just, you can see the prancing horse. Now that prancing horse, I've got the model in front of me. That is about the size of a push pin that you might use in sewing. It's a little tiny, tiny little thing, maybe a 32nd of an inch across. And they've got the tiny prancing horse in the middle of the steering wheel. Just incredible stuff.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's really wild stuff, really wild. Now you're looking at the secondary gauges on the dash. You can see the carpeted floor, the little toggle switches that are under the dash on the model, which, if there's anything this camera does, by the way, the ashtray opens on this model. That's the ashtray just south of the shifter there. And that's real leather on the console as well. It just lets you get into places that you wouldn't be able to do with a standard webcam. And when you want to show detail, if you had like a show about coins or something like that, this camera is going to allow you to do it. There's the door handle. You can see that the model maker has not only made the door handle and made the lock detail that goes into the push button in the center, but they've also replicated the black gasket that goes behind the handle. Here's the map pocket, the sewn-on map pocket, leather top doors. I mean, it's just incredible what these model makers can put into these cars. Now, I think we have a shot that we're going to go around back now. Here we go. This is where it says Ferrari on the trunk of the car. That is photo etched metal. And that latch in here's got metal exhaust tips, the salami cut exhaust tips. They're real steel. Tail light lensing right down to the hardware that the lens would be mounted with in real life. I mean, the details on these things they're incredible. They're incredible. But you pay for that. This model is on the market for about $400, maybe $450. Here's the side vent. It's got a screened side vent with a...
Hold on a second. We're talking about something that has got to be handmade, custom done, and it only sells for $400.
That's the thing. It's kind of an odd thing, Tom, because there are custom builders in this hobby. There are guys, the most famous was Gerald Wingrove, who you would commission him to make a model of your car, and he would painstakingly, piece by piece, often using hand carving, would replicate your model car. There are guys out there that you can call up and you can engage them for tens of thousands of dollars to make an exact replica of your car. They're going to make one of them. They're going to charge you big time for them. Then you take a step back, the next rung down, that same guy may commission a run of models that he'll do, maybe 25 to 100 of the models. Not quite mass produced, but available to more people. And the price will go down, let's say, into the $300 to $500 range. Then you get the mass manufacturers like this company, CMC. They make traditionally 10 to 20,000 of these model cars. Each one of them has upwards of 1,600 individual pieces. Each one of these things goes into place, and I've seen videos of their factory here, like we're looking at the engine detail right now. There's the throttle linkage, there's the steel mesh that goes around the air cleaner. If you looked under the air cleaner, which is not removable, unfortunately, you can see the carburetor detailing. All of the wiring, every bit of detailing of the real car is on the model, and it's all placed by hand. So they work in volume. So you have, 10,000 pieces, 20,000 pieces. You can afford to market these things and amortize your tooling costs, the costs of the molds to make each individual piece, by selling that many cars at that price point. And they're just incredible, incredible model cars. In fact, I think we have maybe one more shot. Here we go. Here's the frame of the car. Now you're looking at, once we get focused in with the microscope camera, we pulled back a little bit to get that. Those are the copper, fuel, and brake lines running alongside the frame. They've been fastened to the frame with steel straps held in place by rivets. I mean, just unbelievable levels of detail that go into these. They've got the crinkle finish on the exhaust. It's just amazing. There we go. There's a good overview. The model is built on a metal tube chassis, just like the real car was. And all of the suspension bits work. Everything on this model car works. You can take the wheels off. You can work the suspension. You can work the steering from the steering wheel. All of the hinges operate on realistic hinges. So in other words, when you open the door, it doesn't kind of hang out on the side of the car. It tucks into the fender. The front edge tucks into the fender as it would on the real car. Remarkable, remarkable stuff. Yeah, here we're getting ready to, I think, pull the wheel off just to show people. I mean, the stance of the car, it's just such a beautiful automobile. They didn't make many of these, and just wanted to give you an idea of the scale. There's my hand next to it. These cars at auction, I'm talking about the real cars now, sell in the tens of millions of dollars each. So these are incredibly expensive cars. And I don't know if anybody remembers Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They trashed one. It was actually a remake. It was a kit car that was supposed to look like in California. Here we go. Now we're pulling the wheel on the car. And that's what this microscope camera allows you to do, is get in really tight. Here we go. The wheel's off, and now we're going to pull in just a little bit. And there's the steel brake disc. There's the brake caliper. There's the brake hose. Behind it is the shock absorber and a real steel leaf spring. All of these pieces. Frank Kelly saying $120 each. No, these run about $400 to $450 a pop, Frank. These are toward the high end. I'm actually, these days, it's about the middle end of the hobby, believe it or not, for this type of high detail die casting. Beautiful, beautiful model car. One of my favorite models of all time. Here we go. A nice close up of the front and the headlights. And you can see all the detailing that went into that, the pressed steel. So I don't know, for you guys out there that are seeing these for the first time, this is the kind of stuff that's out there now for collectors to enjoy.
That is just stunning. It is just stunning.
It's a lot of fun.
I mean, all of us big kids have got toys that we can play with. This is great. This is great.
And most of the guys that collect these, they're guys in their 50s. 30 through 50 is really the meat of the hobby. And yeah, these cars, when they get produced, they sell out. They disappear from the manufacturer's shelves and from the retailer shelves really quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's huge. Wow. Well, I'm like, okay, well, here's my Christmas list and my birthday list. And, but the thing would be, I was like, okay, I spend $400 on a car like that. And then my grandson comes and he wants to play with it. Well, it's coming down off the shelf, dude. We're playing with that sucker. We're taking the tires off. We're having a ball with it. It may not be worth $400 when we're finished, but we're going to have fun.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen it happen. I've had little kids down here, and it's kind of a fun thing. If you do have a young kid and you are a collector, you're getting into collecting, don't be afraid. I mean, under supervision, let them hold the car. Let them open the doors. Let them explore it a little bit. Now, I'm not saying take it and vroom vroom it on the floor. It's going to fly apart. But let them get an appreciation for, hey, this is Dad's special car. This is Grandpa's special car. It's something to be enjoyed. I remember when my daughter was a baby, literally just old enough to stand and hold things in her hands, I would put models in her hands to make it natural to her, to pick them up and to learn how to handle them, learn how to be around them without breaking them. And I mean, you don't have to spend $400 on a model car. You can spend $50. You can spend $100. You can spend $5. You can buy a Hot Wheels or a Johnny Lightning, and the joy is still there. You know, that there's a lot of fun in this hobby to be had at all different price points. And that's kind of what we celebrate at Diecast X. That's the fun we have.
That is too cool. Some of the guys in the chat room are getting out ahead of us here. And Braden has found this on eBay for $22.
Here we go.
And he says, technically, it's an endoscope, endoscope. So if you're looking for one on eBay, you're looking for an endoscope, $22. I guess, Joe, it's a USB camera, so it plugs right in a USB port.
Right in. The ones that were regular cameras were very expensive.
Right.
The ones that had, regular video hookups started, I remember, at about $700, and they were used, and we don't have to go there. A used endoscope, really not something you want to wear. You want to bring around the house without wearing rubber gloves,
That's more than I wanted to know. But we could buy a new one for $22. That's a good deal. And I can think of so many. I mean, if somebody's doing a tech show, and they want to show the intricacies of a camera or a motherboard or anything, because it's all miniaturized nowadays. What better way to do it is to set it up, I guess, probably in a static format, so that you're not having to try to move it around unless you've got some sort of fluid tripod.
That's the hard part. Yeah, especially at the frame rate this thing tends to work out. And again, I don't know if that's a matter of CPU or if it's a matter of the actual unit itself, but it did come with this little tripod jammy here, which it clips into. You can unclip it, and it becomes, freestanding. But again, the problem is that while you're moving it around, your audience is getting seasick, because the frame is changing, and because it's cylindrical, the horizon moves with you. So it gets a little crazy.
But Joe, at $22 a pop,
not a bad thing.
I could get 4 of them.
There you go.
I could set my whatever it is, let's call it a model up, and I've got a front shot, I've got a side shot, I've got a top shot. And I'm doing it on plexiglass, so I got a bottom shot, and I don't have to move anything, so I've got a perfect. Oh man, this is cool! I can't wait to get one.
Oh yeah, no, it's really neat, and you hit it on the head. If you do a show that's about technology, or you need to get in close on anything, this is the way to go. Because a webcam, even a really expensive camera, by the time you zoom in and reset everything you need to set up, this is plug and play. And and especially in like a VidBlaster platform, when it becomes one of your modules, you want that close-up shot, it's a natural flow. Hey, here's the big picture of the model on the webcam. Here's a different angle of the car. Maybe we'll put a second camera. Here's the car in profile. Let's get inside this model car. You open up the door and bam, you hit that microscope. You're there. You're reading the dashboard. You're looking at the, very engaging.
If I'm doing a cooking show, if I'm talking about jewelry, I mean, if I have, and you think about today, there's no limit to the internet. At least, we haven't come close to it. So anybody that's got an interest can create a show, and there's going to be somebody. I mean, I had no clue there were 15 million folks out there that collected diecast and other collectible cars like that. So if, let's say, I'm interested in fabrics, and I want to show the intricacies of a fabric, a camera like this would be absolutely perfect for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. And again, plug and play, USB. I know a bunch of different people make them. I got this one out of Hong Kong.
Okay.
Just because electronics over there, I mean, China in general, and I'm just speaking as somebody who knows what goes into making these model cars. A lot of them are made overseas. It is just boiling with technology, and it is made in every corner of the country, and it's very inexpensive. You can get this stuff. I mean, if we went on the street and tried to buy a real endoscope, you're looking at, maybe $10,000, $15,000. For the purpose of the internet, for the purpose of what we do, certainly, under $20, under $25, you cannot go wrong.
Oh yeah.
And it dovetails into VidBlaster seamlessly. It's right there. So worked really well for us.
And I'm looking in the chat room, and the link that they posted calls it a portable LED digital USB multi-purpose pen, microscope, endoscope camera. So you could probably use any of those search terms and come up with it, and have one by the weekend if it wasn't coming from China.
And a lot of times, if only for the entertainment value of reading some of the product descriptions on those eBay listings, it can be pretty hysterical. Some of the pictures, they'll show you the inside of an ear. It's not something you want to look at right after a meal. I have to be honest with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, the endoscope certainly attracted my attention, but I don't want to let you get off without talking about some of the other setup. So tell us about your mixer and your mic and other things that you're using, other parts of the setup that you're using for your show.
Sure, sure, absolutely. Right now, the main mixer is a Behringer Xenix 1202 FX. It's just a basic, it's a 12-channel mixer. It's got 4 active channels, and it's got the side channels on there, which are just the basic inputs. We run out of the computer's headphone jack into a channel on the mixer, obviously, and we run out of the mixer back into the computer. But before we go back into the computer, we're running through an Alesis compressor. And what that allows us to do is set a ceiling and a gate on the audio, because what was happening is that because we are in a house, basically, a lot of stuff can happen just outside of the room that we didn't want to have necessarily intrude on the show. So we're able to set the gate where there's a threshold where anything that happens below that threshold won't be picked up by the mic. But there's also a limit on the top end where if we do get too close to the microphone, or maybe the music is a little louder than we'd expected on any given part or segment that we run, the compressor is going to catch that and keep it just like it would on a real radio station or television station within a certain parameter. So it just makes it sound a little bit cleaner. Microphones are just basic XLR microphones, cardioid pattern. We were working with some Beyer microphones that at the time were at least 30 years old, so we scotched them. Actually picked up a couple of units at Radio Shack for very little money, which are plugged directly into the mixer. It's working out just fine. Webcams, we have 4 the Pro 9000 Logitechs. We've got the microscope camera, and we've got a Logitech Orbit Cam, which looked like a good idea at the time. It's only served one purpose for us, and that is strictly because of its frame rate. It's a good camera to keep as an overview of your studio if you want to do those shots when you're going to commercial or coming out of commercial, and you want to give people a sense of your location, with the lights, with the monitors, with all the stuff that's going on. It's really good for that, but it's really not so good for any kind of motion capture. So it's bare bones, basic stuff, and that's what I loved about VidBlaster. I didn't have to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. It may sound like a lot of stuff, but it really isn't in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't a huge investment, and it was plug and play, so it was all good all the way around.
Very cool. Very cool. So a Behringer 1202 mixer, a couple of mics, a big wad of webcams.
Yeah, and a Dynex hub too. We had to get a powered hub because USB will only take you so far, as everybody knows.
A hub. I didn't think you could use a hub with webcams. That's interesting.
Interesting thing, yeah. And it was something that a lot of people said to me, and I said, well, geez. I mean, at the point, I had 2 cameras. And I put it out there and I said, well, can I go to 4 or 5 cameras? And a lot of guys said, you can't do that with a hub. You won't be able to switch them.
I was one of them. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, lo and behold, plugged everything into a Dynex hub, just a store-bought, hub. Plugged it in, and VidBlaster saw Logitech Pro 9000, Logitech Pro 9000 number 2, Logitech Pro 9000 number 3, so on and so forth, and listed the cameras. So I was able to open up modules, assign each camera that I wanted to each module, and then just click those modules to get the different angles. And what's really cool about that, and I know I'm talking up a storm, but I'm excited about this, is that the past couple of shows, I've brought my good friend Frank Quarant in here, who was a writer with the old Car Room magazine, and now he and I do the show together. So we have all of these cameras, and we're using each and every one of them. And I'll tell you, if I could get another 5 cameras in the mix, I'd find a way to use those too, because it's just a great software for switching between angles and cameras.
So you're actually switching the show yourself while you're doing it live.
That's the whole Wizard of Oz routine. Oh yeah, big time, big time. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I mean, I spent a lot of years as a musician, so I'm kind of used to being, up in front of people and having to do it or die, and it works out really well with this because it is so intuitive, because it is a graphic thing. You're clicking on modules, they're going out to your audience. So if you want to show a detail, you want to talk about something, it's just click and there you go. And it's great stuff. Really enjoy working with it.
Okay, let's go back to this hub for a minute, because you've definitely piqued my interest there, because the rule is, and you've obviously broken this rule, the rule is that you cannot use a hub and more than one camera on the same USB port. Now, I'm assuming since you're talking about getting a new PC, this is an older PC, so it's a USB 2.0 port that you're connected to, not a 3.0 port.
Not a 3.0. No, this computer is circa 2009. This is a Hewlett Packard M8120N. It's
Okay,
a media center.
So it's not ancient technology, but it's
No, no, it's not. I mean, compared
50
to
years old in
60
computer terms.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
it definitely works. And I see somebody mention that Logitech's huge drainer on CPU. You're absolutely right, Mikey G. They do. What I've had to do with this is on more than one occasion, I've had to pitch the drivers from Logitech because they soaked up a lot of power and stripped it down. In other words, plug the cameras in and then go into my devices and say, pull that camera out, pull the audio part of that camera out until all we see is a USB video device. If you can get rid of the audio part in particular, it's going to make a big difference. You might have to experiment with that. But as far as the cameras showing up on the computer, they did, against all odds. They were there, and that's basically the crux of what we do with the show, having all those cameras and being able to click them and switch them.
This is my kind of guy. I mean, he's going into the guts of his computer and he's stripping out drivers live, and and wow, and he's got 4 cams. Is 4 on a hub?
Actually, we have the 4 Logitech cams, we have the microscope cam, and when we need it, we also plug the Orbit into that. So
On the same hub?
Same hub.
6
Yep.
cams on one hub running
Yes.
live in VidBlaster with live switching.
Yep.
I never would have thought it was possible.
I had heard that it wasn't, and again, the whole crisis point came when we had 2 cameras, and I said, well, let me just see what's going to happen. And this happened back when I had the laptop, which is still over here to my right. We use the laptop just to monitor the stream when we're on, we're on live. We don't want to take up any CPU having the live stream play on the same computer that we're streaming from. But on this computer, when it did show up in VidBlaster, and again, this was an earlier version, I don't know if it's unique to Logitech or, what the rationale, what the reason is. I had read on some forums that Logitech oftentimes will confuse a computer, and I don't know what that was about, but that Logitech will only see itself over and over again. So you can have 5 Logitechs, and the computer only sees 1.
Right.
I don't know what that's all about, and that might have been what was out there. But with this particular setup, it just happened. It just happened. We plugged them in, and boy, oh boy, we had them, going from camera to camera. We can't go high def with them because we just don't have the CPU horsepower to do it. But we can, certainly switch them.
And that might be interesting when you do get the CPU horsepower. You may find that there's a limitation in the hub or something like that. But
yeah.
Geez. All right. Now, there's a question in the chat room about the hub. This is a Dynex, D-Y-N-E-X.
Yeah, DYNEX. I bought this one actually at Best Buy, not to plug a big retail chain, but I think they're all over the place. I think that's a brand that's available just about anywhere. I don't believe it's a store exclusive.
And it's a powered hub. It's not a passive hub.
Yeah, it came with a wall wart, like a 9-volt, plug-in wall wart, and it sends one micro USB on the hub side to a regular USB jack into the computer, and it's been working like a champ.
Excellent, excellent. And there's a comment in the chat room that has nothing to do with hubs, but they're saying that stripping the drivers from other devices like Blackmagic Intensity Pro, stripping the sound driver on that is a good way to reduce the CPU drain because you're really only interested in the video feed from that card. So, Joe, I think you've blown my mind 2 or 3 times at least today. This is good.
It's interesting. I mean, just again, it all comes back down to none of this would have been available or possible if not for this basic software, this ability to do all of the things that mega thousands of dollars of hardware would usually do. To be able to do it from your desktop is incredible, and it lets you get to that level where you can experiment, where you can try new things, to integrate into your show, or even if you just like to sit home and create videos with this and record. It's an immensely powerful tool, very powerful tool.
And folks, I might add that Joe is only using version 2.09. He didn't even know version 2.27, the latest release version, was even available. So if
I'm on that right after the show, man, like a bum on a bologna sandwich. I'm going to update that, no question, no question.
And you might even want to go all the way up to 2.33, which is the latest beta.
I'm
So
in.
you got all the toys. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
I know some questions that are coming to mind because, you know, we're into talking serious shop here.
Right, right.
Are you're streaming this to live stream?
Yeah.
And how are you streaming it to live stream? Are you using Flash Media Live Encoder? Are you using VidBlaster's built-in live stream connector, or are you
I've tried both.
Okay.
I've tried both. We had something happen a couple weeks ago where we purchased one of the pay-for-play plans from Livestream with the hopes of getting a higher quality stream and a higher quality experience, you know, without commercials. And basically what I found out is that to do that, I would have to load their some other software, which just took up way too much CPU. It's called a producer.
Sure.
And I'm sure if I was doing a one-camera shoot, this would be the answer to my prayers. You know, it allowed me to do high def the whole bit. For this particular application, it didn't work. But while I was in the midst of doing that, I did send the stream to the media encoder, Flash Media Encoder. And I was able to play around to a level that I never had before. But ultimately, I found out I was tripping over my own shoelaces trying to get that to work. So I just kind of kicked back. I clicked on the stream, just go to live stream, set the channel info, set the username, and all of the pertinent information. And that, for me, right now is working really well. It's working like a charm. You know, I've never had a problem getting onto live stream, never had a problem with what I was sending there. So yeah, I've tried it all. That seemed to be the best solution for me.
And folks, I can tell Joe's one of those guys that when he finds something that works, he's not going to go play 50 more times with it to get that last 1%. He's like, I'm on to the next big challenge. This, you know, I've got 95% on this one. It's time to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, it all comes down to, you know, for me, to dabble in the media encoders and that type of stuff, which, you know, it's the same kind of thing I did when I first started doing video, you know, years ago, producing videos for magazines and for my own enjoyment. You know, you can get really deep. And even being a musician for all years, I was a musician. You know, there are guys that go out and they want to do a demo tape in their living room, so they'll go out and they'll spend thousands and thousands of dollars on all kinds of hardware and effects and microphones and, you know, the whole bit. And at the bottom of all of this, you're supposed to just be doing a really good song. You know, and if you can't play that song on a guitar and sell it to somebody, the problem isn't in your equipment, it's what you're putting out there. And the simpler you can make things, the simple approach is always the best approach. If you can get from where you want to be out to your audience in a clean sweep, you're ahead of the game. And that's what the software allowed me to do. So to get into all that background jazz, unless I absolutely have to, I stay away from it. I try to avoid it.
The show that we're doing right now is being streamed out using Flash Media Live Encoder. VidBlaster is set for a main resolution of 864 by 480. Really kind of funny because 480 used to be considered high definition. 10 years ago when I bought a TV, the guy said, oh yeah, it's 480, it's high definition. I was like, wow, I'm the latest, greatest. Now 480 is only considered, you know, standard definition. I guess now that they've got 1080p and what are these other ones, 4K coming down the pike. And we're streaming using VidBlaster's Video Out module, which I've got a demo coming up here in a little bit on. And that's going to Flash Media Live Encoder, which picks up the video from VidBlaster. It picks up the audio from my Behringer mixer. And I've got an X1204 USB, which is nice because I don't have the back and forth cables. I've just got the USB hub.
You just picked that up recently. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. And actually did a demo on the mixer that's on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in seeing that. And then Flash Media Live Encoder streams 2 streams to Dacast, D-A-C-A-S-T. And they're not a sponsor of the show or anything like that, but I really like them. I mean, it's no ads. I'm paying $29 a month or $25 a month for more bandwidth than I can possibly use. Your audience is probably 100 times bigger than mine, so you know, doing a free streamer is probably a really great idea. But with Flash being able to send 2 streams, I've got that 864 by 480 stream, which is almost high definition. Let's put it that way. Right. And then I've got a 180 stream, and that's for folks that are watching on their phones, so they can watch the lower resolution feed on the phone, and on a
Right.
phone, lower resolution is all you need. You don't need to eat up all your phone's data service. So if you want to watch it in the train on the way to work, you can tap into the lower feed. Whoops, hold on, lost Joe's video there. There we go, got him back. And
My camera's
that,
sick of looking at me.
yeah, and that's worked really well. Now Flash Media Live Encoder does, I think, a great job of encoding. I'm using the H.264 codec, which I think is a little bit more efficient. And so it doesn't use quite so much bandwidth. I've got 5 megs of upstream bandwidth from Mediacom cable. So I've got a lot of overhead there, and I think when I get to HD, I'll still have plenty of overhead for that. But I would encourage you, and I need to do a tutorial on Flash Media Live Encoder. I've been thinking about that for a long time.
That'd be great.
But
Yeah,
I think you'd really enjoy getting into that and tweaking some more and squeezing out that last bit of resolution. Because there's definitely some things that, and folks, if you're using a dual core machine and you're trying to get good resolution, you need to take a look at Flash Media Live Encoder, and especially that H.264. Well, excuse me, H.264 is really great if you're sort of bandwidth limited. But if you're CPU limited, you want to look at the VP6 encoder because it's a little bit more efficient when it comes to CPU cycles as opposed to the H.264. So there's just some little side tips on that. Well, I'm trying to think. I had the best question in the whole world. I know what I was going to ask. It wasn't the best question in the whole world. It's the second best. Joe, what do you see for the future for your TV show, for the magazine, for internet broadcasting? I'm just going to sort of lob that softball over to you and let you take a shot at it.
Well, it's all wide open right now, and I think that in this environment right now, publishers, any company that needs to reach the public, needs to look at tools like VidBlaster, needs to look at the internet, and needs to really embrace the fact that this is where the public is. Everybody is in front of their computer. Everybody has become so segmented and so specialized within their own, what they love to do, whether they're a collector, whether they're into flowers, whether they're into gardening, whatever they're into, they know where to go on the internet to find out the information about that. And every company that's out there that specializes or has or plays to a specific audience needs to know how to get to those people. And I mean, not even, yes, it's a marketing thing, but it's also a passion thing. Like, everybody at the magazine, we love what we do. We love playing with these model cars. Who wouldn't? We get to wake up and play with toy cars all day. So, we want to take that passion and we want to be able to reach the people who enjoy it with us. And tools like this, like VidBlaster, that allow us to get out to the internet and present ourselves as a brand, as an entity, as a source, it's really where the future is. And if you can find a way to present yourself, and that means finding somebody within your ranks who can get in front of a camera and present it. And we're very fortunate at AirAge Media. We have some great people into radio control who are not only knowledgeable, but who are camera friendly, who can get in front of a camera and speak to their core audience. If you can do that, you can use a tool like this and you can get pretty much anywhere in the world. And you hit it on the head. You've got a multinational audience watching this tonight. And God, if you can reach the world, the door is wide open to just about anything you want to do. As far as print is concerned, print needs to now become the doormat and the springboard to the internet. The print has got to be, it's always going to be palpable, it's always going to be tangible. People will always want to read a magazine. I mean, I can attest to that because I think I've got every copy of every magazine I ever bought, somewhere in a file because I just enjoy magazines. But it's got to be supplemented with the internet. It's got to be supplemented with video. And I mean, strictly speaking, I can tell you all day long about a model car. I can show you a picture of a model car. But until I pick this up and I put it in front of you and you get to see it and you get to see all the little stuff that it does and I get to tell you about it, you really haven't experienced it. And that's really where the hobby, and that's really where publishing, and that's really where the internet needs to go, I think.
Well, we're going to be watching.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. You know, before we go, I'd like to do one thing. I kind of touched on it before we did the show before, because we do love model cars. I'd like to give one of you viewers, one of the
Oh,
people on the chat.
yeah.
I hope you don't mind. I'd like to give them.
Yes, yes, yes.
This is a Hot Wheels Elite Ferrari GTO. It's just such a sweet little model. It's just I love these cars. This is 1/43rd scale, so here, you can see it in my hand. And what I want to do is just ask a trivia question, and the first guy who gets it right, I'm going to send them the car. Well, all they have to do is email me their address. So the trivia question is, what famous NASCAR driver loaned his voice and his personality to the Pixar movie Cars? Now I'm watching the chat.
Oh, this is too fun.
The first guy to get it right. We do this all the time on the show because, I have to be honest, we get a lot of model cars sent to us by the manufacturers. And as much as we love enjoying them, and we certainly do enjoy them, it gets to the point where it's like, well, we can't keep all these things. There's so many of them. So let's give them out. Oh, Frank Kelly got it. Frank Kelly got it. Richard Petty. Yep. Yep. Jim was in this. Jeff Gordon. No, Gordon was in there. Gordon was in there, and I should have qualified that. Richard Petty played the king.
That's right.
In the movie. Yep.
Wait, which part did Jeff Gordon have? I didn't realize Gordon's voice was in there.
He had a cameo.
Okay.
He had a cameo. He was one of the cars. They were talking in the infield, and I think they had a quick bit before one of the Rust Ease scenes in the tent.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies. Oh,
I love it. I love it.
Cool.
I keep those sequels coming. I'll watch every single one.
Yeah,
of them.
really.
When Doc Hudson showed up in full, the fabulous Hudson Hornet gear, I cried like a baby, man. Sat there in the theater, tears coming down my face. It was unreal. Unreal.
Well, Joe, it has been an absolute treat to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for taking time out to do this.
This has been great. I truly appreciate it. And I appreciate what you do for all of the users. And, you're the answer man for so many things. And I'm going to pick your brain over the next couple weeks like you have no idea. Because I love having this tool at hand. And it's just it's a pleasure to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. I appreciate you taking time to come on. And I tell you what, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and pop your email in the chat there, because I think somebody wants to get that car.
There we go.
Folks, it's been great to have Joe on with us today, and he's blown my mind. Number one, with the camera. Number two, with being able to use all those USB cams on a hub. I mean, who would have thunk it? So we're going to have to keep a lookout for this guy in the future. It's Diecast X TV, and there's a magazine associated with it. And if you're interested and piqued by that, you can subscribe to the magazine. You can watch the show. Just Google Diecast X TV, and that'll pop you up to everything that you need to know about it. He's the editor-in-chief of the magazine, and he's the producer of the show. So he's the guy, and we really appreciate him spending time with us today. One of the things we talked about earlier was the video out module and how that works. If you're using version 2.09, you don't have a video out module. You need to upgrade to 2.27, which is the latest release, or 2.33, which is the latest beta. It won't cost you anything. If you've got 2.09, you're a version 2 user. You've paid for it. You're there. It's yours to go claim. Go to the VidBlaster forum and click on the download section of the forum and go to whichever one you want and download it and install it. If you have any problems, shoot me an email, tom@thatvidblasterguy.com. But let me pique your interest about the video out module, because I think it's really cool. So I've got a little demo here. Let me get this demo fired up. Blaster Guy with a tutorial for you about VidBlaster. What we've got in front of us is the VidBlaster default profile. That is the first image of VidBlaster when it comes up for the very first time. Excuse me, we're using VidBlaster version 2.33, which is the latest beta available from the VidBlaster forum. In this demonstration, we want to demonstrate the video out module. So I'm going to maximize the screen here. Whoops, let's try that one again. There we go. And I want to add a module. And it's a video out module, and we'll drag it over here to the right. And the video out module allows us to take whatever we want and send it wherever we want. It's pretty amazing stuff. So I'm going to set the video out module to pick up the program window. That's the main window in VidBlaster. And I'm going to get it to send it to, let's use the VidBlaster VVD. VVD is an abbreviation for Virtual Video Device. So if you want to allow the output in VidBlaster to be picked up in Skype or some other program like that, you can use the VVD. And then in the other program, tell it, look for the VidBlaster VVD as your webcam. We'll click on. And so now this is available to Skype or other kinds of video programs. We can also send it out to a display. Now you can't see it, but I've got a 2-monitor display in front of me. So if I select display 1, now on my second monitor over here to the side, I can now see everything that is on the program window. Now I can change, and let's say I just want to send camera 1 out. Well, that's the same image, so that's not a very good example. Let's say I want to send player 2 out. So now player 2 is being sent out, in this case, to my second monitor. I'm going to change it back to VVD. And now it's being sent out and available for Skype or something else like that. It's really pretty simple. If you right-click on that, you can see that you've got 2 items that are grayed out, demo mode, and anamorphic. And then the one that's available left says remove module. Well, we're not going to remove the module. Let's turn it off, and we'll go back and look at those. Those are still grayed out. No, let's see. Let's go back to program, and we'll check again and say they're still grayed out. I'm not really sure about that. But the main purpose, again, is to send this out either to, so another program can use it as if it were a camera that is a virtual video device, or to send it to something else that your computer is hooked to, like a monitor or a projector or a TV set, so that the output of any one of the available modules, and in this case, let's see, our available modules are camera 1, player 2, video overlay 1, video program, video preview. We don't actually have a preview set right now. If we did, we could use it. But any of these modules can be sent out to another camera. So if you want to have monitors throughout the studio, we can add another video out module number 2, and it can send the program to the display, and we'll turn that on, whereas we can send the output of player 1 to the VVD. So there are lots of different ways to play with this, lots of different ways to solve problems and to fix things. I'm Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy. Hope you'll join us on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock London, for the live show, That VidBlaster Guy, every week. And you can find us, www.thatvidblasterguy.com. Follow us on Twitter, VidBlasterGuy. We'd love to see you then. Bye. Okay, so that was video out. And a question came up in the chat room while we were watching that tutorial. What about the audio? What do you do with the audio? Well, that's the beauty of VidBlaster. Strength, weaknesses, call it whichever you want. VidBlaster is handling the audio for its own internal uses so far as recording your show or your broadcast. But if you want to send the audio out, like to let's say you wanted to go to a separate room. Let's say you were doing a church broadcast and you wanted to have the broadcast go down to the nursery or out to a second room somewhere for overflow purposes. You would send the video and the audio out as 2 separate signals. The video would go whichever way you sent the video, audio would go whichever way you sent the audio, and they would plug into your monitor or your TV as 2 separate channels. If you wanted to run HDMI, then you're going to have to get that audio into the HDMI cable. I think there's some adapters that allow you to do that. I'll check and see what I can find, and I'll let you know. Maybe put that in the show notes if I find something. So video out is a great way to send the video out. We use it in sports broadcast to put a monitor in front of our announcers so that when we do instant replay, they can be commenting on the instant replay because that's what folks are seeing at home. Another beauty of the video out is that you can have multiple video outs, and you can have, if you've got 4 cameras, you can have one for each camera. And conceivably, if you had a PC that had enough monitor connections, a super video card of some sort, you could have multiple monitors, each showing each camera. So there are lots of opportunities there. Really kind of cool. And combine that with other effects for who knows what. That's the beauty of VidBlasters. You can take different piece parts and put them together. One of the speaking of piece parts, one of the projects that I've been working on behind the scenes with my friend Dr. Charles Campbell is to take VidBlaster and make it usable in a virtual set format, where you would have a computer graphics as your set, and you would have different scenes within that set. How would VidBlaster work with that? And I took, my confession to Charles, I didn't take as much time as I'd hoped, but I took about 20 minutes earlier today when I was doing show prep and put together this little tutorial. Now, again, this is 20 minutes. It's not a tutorial. It's a demo. Again, this is 20 minutes work, so it's not perfect. But here I am at the news desk. That's me at the news desk. My chair is very, very short. That's why I'm sitting so low here at the news desk. But if we were going to pull back and get a different camera shot, this would be me at the news desk. See, still me at the news desk, still same short chair, but we've got more of the studio in. In this virtual set, there are also some side views, and that would require me to do the same type of thing, but with a second camera. And basically what I used is a combination of chroma key, picture-in-picture, video overlay, and video effect. And that allowed us to have essentially a virtual studio. I'm sure there are other ways to do this, but basically I was taking the PNG files that were provided to me and showing how you can use these PNG files to create this virtual set effect. And, golly, it wasn't that hard. If I can do this in 20 minutes, think about what you can do with a little bit of time and energy to make something like that happen. We have overstayed our welcome today. We're run overtime. I apologize for that. Would love to have you hang around for the post show if you're watching us live. Just want to give a real hat tip to Joe Kelly Jr. of Diecast X TV, Diecast X Magazine, of coming on and being our guest today. And we really appreciate him doing that. I'm Tom Sinclair. This has been That VidBlaster Guy. Join us on Tuesdays live at 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock London time for another episode of That VidBlaster Guy. Hope to see you then.